So welcome to Gabriel Method Fitness. And the concept, what we're going to be doing is a little bit different than a normal workout. We're going to be doing what we call work-ins. And the reason why we call them work-ins is because rather than just burning calories, which is a typical workout, we're actually going to be changing your internal chemistry so that your body actually wants to be thin. It's not just about calories in, calories out. It's not just about burning calories so that you can eat more. And I remember, just to give you a little bit of background, I remember when I was over 400 pounds, I used to go to the gym and I'd ride the stationary bike for an hour. And you know how sometimes the stationary bike shows you how many calories you've burned? So I ride it for an hour and I've burned 300 calories, which is like, 1,200 kilojoules. And I'm thinking to myself, 300 calories, that's like a bagel, Why not just not eat a bagel and save yourself an hour's worth of exercise? And when you look at exercise as a calories in, calories out type of thing, it's true. It doesn't burn that many calories and it makes you 10 times hungrier. So when I'm done the exercise, I burned a bagel's worth of calories, but then I want 10 bagels. So that didn't work for me. And studies have shown that that's not the way to lose weight. What we're doing is we're changing your internal chemistry so that you're not burning calories so much, or not just burning calories, you're actually getting your body to want to be thin. And it's a different concept, and you don't have to do it for a long period of time. So when you think about the way it works is that we're going to be focusing specifically on two hormones in your body that are very, very key for weight loss. One of them is leptin, the other is insulin. Now, insulin is your fat storing hormone. When your insulin levels are elevated, your body goes into this perpetual fat storage mode. You lose the ability to burn fat. And what we're doing is we're changing your body on a cellular level so that it's more sensitive to this hormone, so that your insulin levels go down, you actually burn fat easier. The other hormone is called leptin, and leptin is the master hormone in charge of how fat or thin your body wants to be. Leptin tells your brain how fat you are. Now, there's a condition when your body wants to hold on to weight, there's a condition called leptin resistance. Your brain actually stops listening to the hormone leptin, and in a sense, your brain thinks you have no fat on your body. It's not getting the message that you have fat on your body, and your body acts like it's starving. So when your fat programs are on, and when your body wants to hold on to weight, two chemical things happen that force you to gain weight. One, your brain thinks you're starving, that you've got no fat on your body, so you're hungry all the time, your metabolism slows down. And two, your insulin levels go up, and your body goes into perpetual fat storage mode, and you lose the ability to burn fat. And most people, when they do an exercise program or a diet and they're looking at the calories in, calories out, nobody even asks the question, do I even have the ability to burn fat? And when your insulin levels get elevated, when your fat programs are on, you lose the ability to burn fat. And that's why you see people like the way I was when I was over 400 pounds on this exercise bike for an hour, and I'm not losing any weight, and I'm hungry all the time. It's a metabolic syndrome that takes place in your body. We're going to change all that. Through these work-ins, we're changing your internal structure on a cellular level so that your cells are more sensitive to insulin, so your insulin levels go down and you can burn fat easier. So your brain is more sensitive to leptin, and so your brain actually knows that you have fat on your body, and your brain can then start to say, hold on, look at all that fat we have in our body, and you start to lose weight. And what we're doing, in a sense, is getting our bodies to want to be thin, working with our body's natural chemistry and our natural programs, our natural survival programs, to get our bodies to want to be thin. So it's not about calories in, calories out, and in fact, it's not much exercise at all. We're talking about doing 4 minutes of a certain type of exercise, 4 minutes of another. The whole thing can be done in 10 to 12 minutes a couple of times a week, and you're changing your internal structure. So we're very lucky to have with us our head coach, Coach Brian Killian, who's a fitness trainer and a naturopath with 20 years experience in the fitness industry. And he's very passionate about what he does. He's going to be helping us and guiding us through these work-ins. So I just want to introduce Brian to you guys. So Brian.
Thanks, John. So just backing up what you've said, there's some fantastic evidence to support what you've been saying. There was a Japanese researcher named Ozumu Tabata who did this research project where he took two groups of people. One group of people he put through a protocol known as now the Tabata protocol, where they did 20 seconds of high intensity exercise followed by 10 seconds rest, and they did that 8 times. And then the other group, what they did is they put through 20 to 30 minutes of medium aerobic activity, so like walking, jogging, riding a bike. Now interestingly, at the end of the control group, at the end of the period, they found that the people that did the Tabata protocol lost more weight, gained more strength, and improved their aerobic capacity as opposed to the other group. Now that changed everything. Fitness trainers everywhere, stood up and said, well, here we are getting people to run for hours on end, lifting weights for hours on end, but we can make a short interval training program that's going to have the same effect. So it really was quite revolutionary.
What's cool about the fact that there's so much research now behind this, and I read another study where they took 2 groups of women. One group was on a treadmill, one group was on an exercise bike for an hour a day, 7 days a week, just doing straight line exercise. The other group was on an exercise bike 3 times a week for 20 minutes, but during those 20 minutes, every once in a while they would sprint for 11 seconds, just 11 seconds, that's all. Sprint for 11 seconds. That group lost 3 times as much weight as the other group, and they're exercising 1/5 as much. But the key is that peak intensity. And what's cool is that there's the research behind it, but I came up with this approach theoretically, because I said to myself, what would make your body want to be thin? Well, if we were living outdoors thousands of years ago, and we had to run away from tigers, if there were tigers out there, and all of a sudden they'd come out and they start chasing us, well, that's going to make your body want to be thin. That 10 seconds of running away from a tiger. And by the way, I thought about this too. You don't really need to be faster than a tiger to escape being attacked. You just have to be faster than the guy running next to you. You know what I mean? See you later, Bob. Always liked you. But you have to be fast. If you're not fast, you're dead. We call this the get thin or get eaten adaptation. That is, it's an adaptation in our body, a survival mechanism, that when there's tigers out there and we got to run away from them, it's a survival mechanism that makes your body say, we need to be thin in order to survive. And if your body thinks that you need to be thin in order to survive, you lose weight. And chemically what happens is certain things, like we talked about this leptin resistance, your brain starts listening to leptin. There's a chemical that takes place when you're sprinting. There's a chemical that gets secreted in your brain. It's called corticotropin releasing hormone. It's part of the stress response. That chemical, when that chemical gets released in your brain becomes more sensitive to leptin. It starts hearing leptin. It knows how much fat you have in your body. And it goes, whoa, where'd all this fat come from? You start losing weight. The other part of the exercise is the resistance part, which Brian's going to talk about, is sort of like wringing your muscles out of stored sugar. And when you wring your muscles out of stored sugar, your muscles want to suck sugar up again. And the way your muscles suck sugar up is it becomes very sensitive to insulin. So you reverse insulin resistance, your insulin levels go down, you become very efficient at burning fat. So those 2 chemical changes combined get your body to want to be thin. And theoretically it makes sense, because the type of working we're doing is like you're running away from a tiger. And so that's going to make your body want to be thin theoretically. Chemically, it's proven, and then with just statistical research, it's documented. So that's the type of work that we're going to be doing. Brian, why don't you talk a little bit more about what these work-ins are going to be like for what we're going to be doing in these work-ins?
Okay, well, how we put together these work-ins is that, first of all, we have a resistance stage. In that resistance stage, what we're doing is we're wringing out the glycogen out of the muscles. When you wring out that glycogen, that's your immediate energy source. Once that's gone, the body is forced to replenish. Because as you can understand, if you don't have that immediate energy source, then if you are attacked, you don't have any energy. So what the body will do will go into fat burning mode to replenish that immediately. So that's done first. Once we've done that, we're going to move you into that high intensity interval training, like following the Tabata protocol, which is fantastic for getting you to burn fat in a very short period of time. Now, the Gabriel Method is about the mind-body approach, and the Gabriel Method Fitness follows that same approach as well. So what we've done is combined this research that we've got with the type of exercise with the visualization. We've come up with a very, very unique tool to enable people to burn fat and also to apply that mind-body approach.
All right, so you mentioned visualization. What does that have to do with it?
Well, you know, visualization is a really powerful technique for getting your mind and body to work together. What's interesting about visualization is that your body doesn't understand the difference between a real and imagined experience. So when you visualize something happening, your body thinks it's really happening. So you know how like you have a dream, for example, and you dream that you're being chased by a tiger. You might wake up, your heart's pounding. Your heart's pounding because your body thinks it's really happening. So the way we use visualization for these work-ins is that when you're in peak intensity, you actually can visualize something chasing you, and your body will think it's really happening, and your body will think, well, the reason I'm moving so fast is because we're running away from something that's trying to eat us, and it activates the get thin or get eaten adaptation. So it's a great way to get your mind and body to work together to stimulate this adaptation and get your body to want to be thin.
So does overtraining come into this?
Well, you know, that's a really good point about overtraining. There's been a lot of studies, when you talk about the chemistry of your body, there's been a lot of studies that if you exercise too much, you'll get something called overtraining. And overtraining, what it does is it causes your cortisol levels to become elevated, and elevated cortisol levels is the same thing that happens when you're in a famine. And it causes your body to become leptin and insulin resistant. So it actually gets your body to want to be fat. And studies, they did research with cross-country skiers at the University of Colorado where they were doing more and more exercise. And the more exercise they were doing, the more they were losing weight. But all of a sudden they got to a certain point where they weren't losing weight anymore. They actually started to gain weight. Now they're exercising more, but they're gaining weight. So for us, what we're going to be doing with these work-ins is we're only going to be doing them, you only want to do them maybe, keep in mind, they're 12 minutes from start to finish. You got to warm up, you got the resistance part, you got the run away from a tiger part, you got the cool down. The whole thing, each interval is 4 minutes, the whole thing from start to finish is going to be 12 minutes. We only want you to do this 2, 3, at the most 4 times a week. You want to have rest days so that your body can recuperate, so that your body can have an opportunity to change on a cellular level and on a metabolic level, and that you can be fresh for the workouts and they can be intense, and so that you don't overtrain. So that's a really important point. And most people think, again, when you're looking at calories in, calories out, and most so-called experts will recommend that you do an hour of cardio a day, 7 days a week, because they're thinking it's burning X number of calories, but you're not looking at the changes that your body's making on a cellular, on a hormonal level. When you do that type of exercise, you're causing your body to actually want to hold on to weight. So you want to exercise less, you want to exercise smart, intense, get your body, mind and body to work together. A perfect example of that is if you look at Olympic sprinters. Olympic sprinters have 0 body fat. I mean, they look like an anatomy lesson. And all they're doing is 10-second sprints. You compare them to a marathon runner. Now, a marathon runner is not fat by any stretch of the imagination, right? But actually, marathon runners have more fat on their bodies on a percentage basis than sprinters. And these are people that are running 15 miles a day, seven days a week. And they've got more fat on their body than someone who's doing 10-second sprints. And that's because the sprints are getting your body to want to be thin. They're changing that structure, that chemical structure. They're activating the get thin or get eaten adaptation.
So Brian, what do these work-ins entail?
So we've come up with 5 fundamentals to Gabriel Method Fitness that we're applying throughout all of the work-ins. The first one is that it's brief, short. The workout needs to be short. We don't want it to turn into we don't want it to develop into a chronic stress where you develop overtraining syndrome, as John was speaking about. So the whole work-in is, somewhere between 8 to 12 minutes total. The second one is that it's intense. It's that intensity in the exercise that's integral to the effectiveness of the work-in. It's really important that whilst you're doing these 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, that 20 seconds on is that you're going as hard as you possibly can, considering your present level of fitness. The third one is that it's playful. Okay? Exercise needs to be fun. It's really about movement. We talk about fitness, we talk about exercise, but it's really movement is what we're trying to encourage. I know from my own experience with training with people who have had a weight problem, the idea of going to a gym or exercising is just, there's like so much negative connotation associated with it. So we've been working really hard to make the work-ins, fun and enjoyable, to encourage people to get into movement. Really is what we're trying to get them to do. The fourth thing is that they're bendy. Okay, your muscles need to be long. For them, when their muscles are longer, they're stronger. So you'll find that in our work-ins, a lot of the exercises are like we're going through a full range of motion all the time, and we're incorporating some warm-up and some cool-down stretches to lengthen your muscles. Also, there's really interesting studies that show that your ligaments act like energy conductors. So what we're trying to do is like lengthen them and break any adhesions within those, so you get nice positive energy flow. So rest is really important, and that's the last fundamental that we applied in Gabriel Method Fitness. When you rest, you recover. When you recover is where you repair, and it's in that recovery and repair is that you actually get the real gains in terms of your fitness. So within a work-in, there's like 4 stages. There's a warm-up, there's a resistance, there's the get thin, get eaten adaptation stage, and then you follow it up with a cool-down.
You know, Brian, I just want to say also that you talk about how, typically when people are overweight, they don't want to exercise. There's a real chemical reason for that. When your body wants to hold on to weight, when it goes into this sort of survival mode, because keep in mind that weight's a form of protection. And originally it was designed to protect us against famines and cold weather thousands of years ago. So if your body, for whatever reason, for whatever chemical reason, thinks that it needs to hold on to weight, it's going to slow your metabolism, it's going to make you tired all the time. You're not going to want to exercise. But through all the different things that we're doing, we're changing our body's internal chemistry. Those fat programs are getting turned up. You're going to have more energy. So what we find is by doing work-ins like this and by doing some of the other suggestions that we make, your energy starts to pick up, your metabolism speeds up, and you want to get out and be active. And so these are different ways. Like we've got different work-ins here. One of them is just playing in the park with kids. There's different ways that you can do a work-in and make it work by playing in the park with kids. One is playing tag. If you're just playing tag or playing frisbee or soccer or any of these things, you're sprinting, you're running, especially tag, you're running away from something. So you've got that thing. And then for the resistance, for the strength thing, you can do you can take your kid and put them on your back and do a piggyback ride, or you can do a wheelbarrow race where your kid's holding your ankles and you're working on a wheelbarrow. You can climb on monkey bars, you can do the flying fox. There's lots of ways to make it fun. So we've tried to create as many different variations. Some of them you're just doing at home. And I know Brian came up with this idea of water bottles. Maybe you can talk a little bit about why we're using water bottles.
Whatever you've got around the house that you're able to hold onto easily and safely will work perfectly well for any of the resistance work that we've got incorporated into the work-ins. I often find that, with my own clients and they just waste so much money. They're buying treadmills, they're buying weights, they're buying mats. They've got all the gear, which is really completely unnecessary. You've got all the stuff you need at home. We came up with the idea that these work-ins, we want people to be able to do them at home without having to go off and buy any expensive equipment and waste hundreds of dollars. So we're just using water bottles as our weight. So, a 1 kilo, a 1 litre water bottle is a kilo. So that's fine. That's fine for your resistance training.
So what level of fitness do you think an individual would require to carry this out?
Well, that's a good question. And what we've tried to do is we've tried to make these work-ins as user-friendly. So if you're really fit, you're going to get a great work-in. You're going to have that chemistry. And if you're just starting out, and even if you've got 100 or 200 pounds of extra weights, which again I did, 10 years ago, you can do these, and we're structuring them. For example, when Brian's saying to do squats, you can just bend your knees just a little bit. It's just the movement, whatever you can do. Obviously, you have to get your doctor's approval before starting any fitness program. That's essential. But we're structuring them so any level of fitness, anybody at any size, in any shape, is going to be able to do these work-ins and benefit from them.
And your results are quite remarkable, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they're incredibly effective. And in considering the fact, especially that you're talking about 12 minutes a couple of times a week, to me, it's perfect. And I'll just tell you a story about how I kind of discovered this concept of, the get thin or get eaten adaptation. I discovered it, this was after I had lost I lost a total of 220 pounds. This was about 10 years ago. But after I'd lost about 180 pounds, I remember I was riding my bike one day and I just had this thought, I really want something to take my fitness to the next level so I can get all the way there, because I was so close and I was so motivated at that point. The second I had that thought, this dog came out of nowhere and started chasing me. And he's going, bah, 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 bah. And he's got these little nappy canines. He's this close from taking out my Achilles tendon for a kilometer. I'm standing up, I'm going as fast as I can, my heart's beating. Finally, I lose him. The next 2 weeks, I just dropped weight like crazy. I didn't do anything different in my routine. Weight's fallen off of me. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I made that connection, that it was that experience of having that little yappy dog napping at my ankles that did it. And so what I used to do then is whenever I got to that place in the bike ride, I would stand up and I would imagine this dog was chasing me. And it worked really, really well. And it took me the rest of the way. Eventually, I got so good at it, at the visualization side of things, that at night I used to go to sleep and just imagine I'm in perfect shape and I'm sprinting and I'm running away from something. And that works. It's really, so it's not just about the mechanics of your body, it's about working with your body in a mind-body approach to get your body to want to be thin. If your body thinks that you need to be thin in order to survive, you will lose weight, guaranteed. So remember to do the visualization when you're doing it. Yeah. Yeah, so we're trying to make it simple, easy, and just be as intelligent as possible in a mind-body way to get your body to want to be thin, to change this chemistry, and be as effective as possible. And that's what we're doing. So if you guys are ready, we can just get right into it. What do you think? Okay, cool.